Hello, I am Dr. Rashid Ahmed from the Department of Physics of Kohat University of Science and Technology. In the subject of particle physics with the course code PHY 452, we are at the lecture number 17 and the topic is decays and conservation laws. As we know that all the heavy particles decay into the lighter ones, provided that the conservation laws are satisfied. In today's lecture, we are going to learn that how the decays are governed by the conservation laws and how different forces, that is quantum mechanical forces, that is like strong nuclear force or weak nuclear force or electromagnetic force, govern these decays. So, as I am already saying that every particle decays into the lighter particle if it is available, but if the particle is already on the lightest side, that is its mass is heavier, not heavier than any other non-fundamental particle, then that particle will not decay into other particle. For example, electron will not decay into any other particle because of its lightest mass. But let's see how all these things are governed by the forces. So decay is governed by the three fundamental forces, that is strong nuclear force, electromagnetic force and weak nuclear force. Now all these three forces have their strength and they act between particles according to their lifetime. For example, the strong nuclear force has a lifetime of 10 to the power minus 23 seconds. That means that if we have two particles, consider these two particles, and the strong nuclear force, let's say if they are quarks, and strong nuclear force is acting between them, then it will take about 10 to the power minus 23 seconds that these two particles will exert force, strong nuclear force on each other. That's why this force is called the strongest force, because it needs the shortest time to act between the two particles. On the other hand, the electromagnetic force is weaker than the strong force and its time is 10 to the power minus 16 seconds. So you can see the difference between them. And then we have the weakest force, that is the weak nuclear force, and its time is almost 10 to the power minus 13 seconds. I am not talking about gravitational force over here because it is first not quantized and not unified with these three forces. That's why I am only talking about these quantum mechanical forces, that is strong nuclear force, electromagnetic force and weak force, and their time needed to act between the particles. Then there is a characteristic mean life of all the particles. I will give here a few examples. For example, in muon, the half-life or mean life of this particle to decay is 2.2 into 10 to the power minus 6 seconds. So it decays into other particles, the lighter ones, but this is the mean characteristic life for it to decay. So it's an important parameter for all decays that we consider. On the other hand, if you see the pi plus or pion, positive pion, its decay is 2.6 in 10 to the power minus 8 seconds. And similarly, negative pion has a different decay time. So all these mean lives are the characteristics of the decays when these heavier particles decay into lighter ones. The next thing is the decay modes. It is also possible for a single particle to decay into multiple particles. For example, if we have 100 of kaons, then 64% of these kaons will decay into these two particles. This mode is getting 64% of the decays into mu plus, and because kaons are heaviest mesons and they decay into muons and neutrinos, associated neutrinos, but this decay channel or this decay mode is almost taking 64%. That means if we have 100 kaons, then 64 out of them will decay into this mode, but 21% of them will decay into the different mode. And similarly, the 6% of all kaons will decay into yet another mode, and similarly 5% of them, and so on. So you can see that the decay modes, there are multiple decay modes for the same particle, but that doesn't mean that single particle goes into this or this, but it means that when we have bunch of particles, many particles lying together, then this is the percentage of their decay modes going into there, into the different particles. So we have seen that how their characteristics in lives are different, and we also have seen that same particles decay into different modes. Depends upon its a probability for a particle that which mode it decays into. So as you all know that three fundamental quantum mechanical forces are governing these decays. So it is important to remind to you the fundamental vertices of, or the primitive vertices of these forces. For example, in the strong force, the primitive vertex is this one, where a quark coming and gluon. So this is a primitive vertex. So it is not really a process, but it's just a primitive or fundamental vertex. And when we combine such vertices together, we can build or construct a process in the strong nuclear force. And then we have the electromagnetic force, and its fundamental vertex is electron and going into this photon. So this is the fundamental vertex for electromagnetic force. And the third force is the weak force, but it has, as I already told you, that it has charged and neutral mediators. In strong force, we have only mediators which are charged. These are having color charge, 8 gluons. And electromagnetic, we have neutral mediator, that is photon. But in the weak force, we have both the types of mediators, that is W's, which are plus and minus, and Z's, which are neutral. So this is the leptonic mode, where 2 leptons are coupling with the W or Z. So both are written here. And this is the hadronic mode, or quarks going through both channels. So these are the primitive vertices. So the reason I am telling you these primitive vertices again over here is that at every vertex we must conserve some quantities. That's important. So whenever there will be decays of heavier particles into lighter ones, we can represent these processes with these primitive vertices, or we can build those processes with the help of these primitive vertices. But one thing which we have to make sure is that at every vertex there will be a conservation of laws. So we are going to see now that which things are conserved on these vertices and which things are not conserved. So first we start with the kinematic conservation laws. These are the laws which are kinematically conserved, and very important one, and they apply to all forces. That means that all three fundamental forces, either strong nuclear force or weak nuclear force or electromagnetic force, conserve all these kinematic laws, or they obey, they do not violate these kinematic conservation laws. The first of them is conservation of energy and momentum. You know that this is very, very important law, and no violation have ever been observed to this law, that is energy and momentum. Well, no violation to any conservation law is observed, otherwise it would not be a conservation. So energy and momentum, since they are by special relativity linked together, are conserved at every vertex. So it means that at strong vertex, or in the electromagnetic vertex, or weak nuclear vertices, all conserve the energy momentum. Similarly, angular momentum is also conserved in these vertices. So these are the conservation of the kinematic laws, energy momentum and angular momentum, and all of them are have to be conserved. And the next is the laws which are not kinematic, and first of them, and the most important of them, is conservation of charge. So remember that all three forces, like in case of kinematic conservations, kinematic loss conservation, here we also have that all the three forces conserve the charge at every vertex. And by this charge I mean the not only the electromagnetic charge, that is plus minus, and the color charge, that is red, blue and green, but also the weak charge at every vertex. So all sorts of charges are conserved at vertices, either they are electromagnetic, color or weak charges. The next conservation law is of conservation of color, as I have already said. So only strong force conserve it, because in weak force or electromagnetic force they are not anyway concerned with that, or they are not part of it. So color on the quarks will be conserved by the strong nuclear force. And similarly, conservation of baryon number. So all the baryons in any decay at the left side and right side will be the same, and all three forces conserve them. So baryons are those particles which are made of 3 quarks, and all baryons are conserved. It means that if we have a process, so to the left side of that process and to the right side of that process, the baryon number which we assign to different particles will be the same. Similarly, and the total number of quarks present are constant. That means that the baryon number. And similarly, the electron number is also conserved. That means that on the left and right hand side of any decay, the number of the electron number, that doesn't mean that the number of electrons, but it means that the electron number which we assign to different particles, and all three forces conserve this electron number too. And there is another number conservation law, that is conservation of muon number. This is also conserved by all three forces. And similarly, conservation of, so these are all leptonic conservation laws. So lepton number and muon number and tau number, and altogether it is, there is also another law, it's called lepton number, that is also conserved by all three forces. So conservation of tau number is there, all three forces conserve the tau number. Then we come to the strong force case, where the conservation of flavor. So here is one difference between the other conservation laws and the flavor conservation, because weak force do not conserve the flavor. That's why it is also called the flavor dynamics, because at vertex the flavor of a quark, so quark coming in and quark coming, for example, quark with the red quark coming over here, and it is up quark, and up quark can convert into the down quark. So this up and down are sorts of flavors. So for example, this is a quark and it is an up quark, and it can go into the down quark at this vertex, but this vertex will be then the weak nuclear force, because it does not conserve it. But on the other hand, if we involve the strong nuclear force or electromagnetic force, then it will not change the flavor of quarks. That's why the weak nuclear force is sometimes called a flavor dynamics. Next thing, and a very important thing, and is somehow interest of everyone, is the unification of forces. So this is a sort of very old dream of humankind, to somehow unify all the forces and prove that their origin is same. We have partially successful in unifying some forces, but at the moment we are not able to unify all forces. So let's start with a history, that how it started. So the first unification the humankind have seen is of electricity and magnetism. Before Oersted, we know that electricity was thought to be an independent of magnetism, but then Oersted and Faraday found out that electricity is connected to magnetism, and magnetism is connected to electricity, and by this way they connected them, and they found out that this is a combined phenomena, which is electromagnetism. So electricity and magnetism are not two different things, but different aspects of a same thing. So for the first time, when Oersted seen that electrical charges have magnetic fields, and then Faraday discovered that because of the magnetism we can have electricity. So this way, this first unification of humankind of electricity and magnetism was observed, and before that we were treating electricity and magnetism as different forces, but then this combination occurred, and now we know that there is one combined force of electromagnetism. But we didn't stop here, and we thought that we can go further and combine forces. For example, the next unification on which humankind was successful was of electromagnetism now, that is combined electricity and magnetism, now trying to combine it with a weak nuclear force. And this was a successful theory where the electromagnetism plus the weak nuclear force resulted into electroweak force. And this is very technical model presented by Glashow, Weinberg and Salam. And briefly, if I briefly tell you that how it happens, it is related to the mediators of these forces. As I already told you, the mediator of electromagnetism is photon, and mediator of weak nuclear force are 3, that is W plus, W minus and Z naught. But if you go to the higher energies, I mean if you increase the energy, you will see that all these mediators behave similarly, that is photon and 3 mediators, and that's how the force electromagnetism and weak nuclear force combined into electroweak force, which has 4 mediators, that is photon, W plus, W minus and Z naught. So these are the mediators of electroweak force at high energy, and they are just the same. But through Higgs mechanism, when energy is lowered or we come to the lower energy, then through Higgs mechanism this photon remains massless, and W plus, W minus and Z naught acquire actually very huge masses, and they are separated from them. So this symmetry breaking, actually the idea was spontaneous symmetry breaking, whereby symmetry between these particles were broken down. So you can somehow think of it as a Mexican hat over here. So here all the particles are there, and here is the Higgs field, and when this particle roll down over here, so photon somehow does not interact with the Higgs field, but W plus and W minus and Z naught interact with this Higgs field and acquire mass. So this mass Higgs field gave mass to these 3 mediators, but it does not give mass to the photon. That's why it remains massless at lower energies, and these acquire the mass. But when you go to the higher energies, all these 4 particles are just the same. So we say that here lies the electroweak force, but at the lower energies it is separated from each other. By this model, Glashow, Weinberg and Salam were able to not only combine the electromagnetism with the weak force, but they also predicted the masses of W plus, W minus and Z naught independently, and that were discovered in 1983 in CERN. The masses, the very heavy W plus, W minus and Z naught. That's why they are very heavy. That's why the weak nuclear force is very short range. Okay, so this was the next unification successfully discovered by the humankinds, and now there are also somehow the hope of that we can combine somehow electroweak force with a strong nuclear force and get a strong and get a one force, which is called the grand unification theory. But the problem with some of these models is that they predict the decay of proton. But in some of the forces, some of the theories like string theory, which combines not only the electroweak force and strong nuclear force but even gravity with it, the decay of proton is protected, and no such problems are there. But so far experimentally no theory is able to combine these forces and also the gravitational force with them. Technically you can also think of a combination of these forces in terms of this famous diagram, where you see that we combine them in terms of the in terms of the coupling constant. So you can see the coupling constant of strong force at low energies it is very high, but as you go up, that it is a running coupling constant. At short distances it is becoming small, and at small distances or higher energies, but at lower energies and bigger distances it is very high. But on the other hand, the coupling constant of weak nuclear force is also very different. That's why these are these forces are very different, but when you go up there, you see that it meets the coupling constant of strong nuclear force at some point about 10 to the power 15 GeV. And we also have then electromagnetic force, which is weaker here, but it gets stronger at high energies, and it also meet there. So at 10 when we will reach at 10 to the power 15 GeV, probably at this scale we will be able to check up that all these three forces combine. And there are other ideas to combine, for example, the the gravitational force, quantize it, and then its coupling constant, discover its coupling constant, and it will meet them as well somewhere. And also these energy scale is very high, but it probably be probable at sun in future colliders. So in this way, we are hoping there are some exotic ideas like supersymmetry, which demands that bosons and fermions are somehow same. That will also help in unifying these forces. So in today's lecture, we have seen that decay laws and decays of different particles, heavier particles into the lighter particles, are governed by these three fundamental forces. And then we have also seen the unification of these theories. Some of them are already been observed experimentally and theoretically established, but still there is a lot of things to do in doing actual unification and finding this ultimate force, nature of the ultimate force, out of which all these four forces will originate. Thank you very much.